Hello everyone, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to Minch Walks and Talks. I'm Minch, and what I do here is pretty simple. I show you what I'm looking at, and I share whatever's going on in my head while I look at it. Third video already. I'm still here in Tirana, the capital of Albania, and today I'm going to walk this city a little differently than usual. This big square I'm standing in is called Skanderbeg Square. Normally, this is just Tirana's living room, I guess you'd call it. If you live in this city, sooner or later you end up here. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you believe. Mosque, Catholic Church, Orthodox Church, all within a kilometer of where I'm standing. Library, market, cafes, hotels. The whole city feels designed around this one square. Never lived under communism myself, but if I ever got to design a city from scratch, I have a feeling it'd end up looking a lot like this. When I first got to Tirana, I did one of those walking tours. Local guide, English or Italian or German, however you want it, walks you around based on whatever you're into. Pretty popular here. Tip-based, basically free, but figure on 10 euros or so. I got incredibly lucky. The morning of my tour, some group canceled because of the heat, so I ended up with the guide entirely to myself. Full VIP treatment. Since I was the only tourist, I asked him everything I could think of, and lucky for me, he used to be a teacher, really into history as well, and we turned out to be into a lot of the same things. Talked the whole afternoon, got ice cream together at the end, said goodbye like old friends. Alan, if you're watching this, hey, hope you're doing well. Drop a comment if you see this. Learned a lot that afternoon, but here's one of my favorites. This whole square looks flat, but is actually built as a very slight low dome, so the drainage works perfectly. And the center of the square is visually obvious too, so there's this natural sense of everything converging toward one point. Also, Enver Hoxha's regime, which didn't officially recognize religion, made exactly one exception here in Tirana, the mosque right at the edge of this square, across from the library, opposite the opera house. Apparently, the murals inside were considered too beautiful to destroy. Some grudging acknowledgement of its value as religious architecture, even under an atheist regime. It's about 6:30 local time now, and you can probably see it. Quite a few people wrapped in these brimless white hats and red capes. The red cape with the eagle is the Albanian flag, and the white hat's called a kelasher, a traditional felt hat that traces back to the Illyrians, the people Albanians consider their ethnic ancestors, a civilization older than Rome itself, actually. The reason I'm starting today's video here at Skanderbeg Square is something genuinely important has been happening in Albania for the past couple months. It's on the news every night. I run into it every evening. It'd honestly be strange if I didn't put it in this diary living here. And there's a part of this that really resonates with me personally. So even though I'm just a traveler who's been in the city for about a month, I wanted to show you what I've been feeling, alongside the Tirana I actually see every day. Look, I know. Showing up somewhere for a month and acting like I know the place, that's not really what this channel does. But some of you are watching this without any background at all, so let me keep it short. You're not here for a history lecture. Back in May, down south near Vlorë, there's an island called Sane, right where the Adriatic meets the Ionian Sea. Apparently it's an amazingly beautiful place. I haven't been yet, but the Adriatic's the sea from Miyazaki's Porco Rosso, if that helps you picture it. Have you seen this movie yet? If not, put it on the list. It's one of my all-time favorite films. It's not just an anime, it's an amazingly romantic film, and there's like a 99% chance you'd like it. Anyways, the whole thing kicks off when a massive luxury resort project gets announced for the island, led by Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump's husband. The area was legally protected, except the law quietly got changed right before the project was announced. You're nodding already, aren't you? Environmental groups pushed back first, went into protest, and when private security cracked down hard on them, it spread to Tirana like wildfire, and it just kept growing. What started as an environmental fight has turned into a question about governance and sovereignty, who this country actually belongs to. People are demanding the Prime Minister's resignation, the project cancelled, the laws repealed, a real investigation into corruption. You've probably seen the numbered signs, 63 when I filmed this. This was Saturday, August 1st, but this goes up about a week later, so by the time you're watching, it's day 70. Looks like the march is about to start. Routes the same every day. From here at Skanderbeg Square, down Deshmorete Combi Boulevard, past the Prime Minister's office, all the way to Parliament on George W. Bush Street, where people take turns speaking. People are starting to move now. Looks like the march is kicking off. You know, I'm actually walking with a camera, but no stabilizer. I mean, I don't have a gimbal with me right now, and I don't want the footage getting too shaky. So let me move a little more to the outside of the crowd. Just a second. Alright, let's walk together. So, right behind Skanderbeg statue, there's a lawn. And that's actually where I watched my first World Cup match here, the day I landed in Tirana, June 29th. Big screen set up, Brazil versus Japan. Honestly, I don't really care for football, not even the World Cup. Whoever wins, I don't care whose shirt you wear. I mean, I don't really care for watching guys playing with their balls, but I was rooting for Japan anyway. They were the last Asian team competing after all. So, for the record, Brazil won anyway. Right where I'm walking now, that's where the stage was. DJ played music after the match. Hundreds of people sitting right here on this lawn that same night, watching the big screen, cheering together. That was actually my first impression of young people in Tirana. Healthy, full of energy, but somehow innocent about it too. Actually, I don't remember the exact time, but the match broadcast was already after sunset. So that same night, people here were probably already out, flags and megaphones, marching to Parliament, same as now. Once you're past this square, you're on the boulevard, and there is actually some interesting architecture history here. Before communism, Albania was occupied by fascist Italy, and this whole stretch, the street, the buildings, was designed by Italian architects back then. The boulevard's actual name, by the way, is Deshmorete Combi, Martyrs of the Nation Boulevard, and down at the far end, there's Mother Teresa Square. Now, is there anyone on earth who doesn't respect Mother Teresa? I didn't know she was Albanian until I got here, honestly. Funny thing about famous people, the second somebody becomes great, everyone starts fighting over who gets to claim them, where they were born, where they lived as a kid for 6 months, where they went to school. Everybody wants a piece of that reflected glory. Mother Teresa, though, by blood, she's 100% Albanian. Born in Skopje, back when it was under the Ottoman Empire. That's the capital of North Macedonia now. And she spent most of her life serving in India, so both of those countries make their own claims on her too. But anyway, she's Albania's most famous export, no argument there. Tirana's international airport is officially named after her. So, just in case you don't know, the official name of the national airport here is Tirana International Airport None Teresa. None means mother, obviously. So, funny story actually. I found out about all this before I even got here. About 5 weeks ago. I'd already decided to escape Paris, bought my ticket to Tirana exactly a week before I left. And then, you start doing the normal thing, looking for a place to stay, figuring out what to do with yourself. I'm not really a heavy planner, but this was a city I'd never been to, so I needed at least some information. Co-working spaces, art spaces, that kind of thing. Places where people like me hang out. So I searched it on Instagram. Tirana co-working space. And what came up? Drone footage. People wrapped in big red flags, marching. Hashtags like diaspora, Flamingo Revolution. Day 25, day 26. Numbers like that on handmade signs. And you think, okay, a massive anti-government protest is happening in the exact city I picked to escape a heat wave. Shouldn't that worry me a little? Honestly, no. Kind of the opposite. Because when I actually read into it, Ivanka Trump, Kushner, a prime minister who apparently changed the law so a protected island home to an endangered species could get sold off for some luxury resort. I mean, as a storyteller, my eyes just lit up. Big names, dramatic location, a real villain, an underdog cause. That's honestly blockbuster material. And almost nobody outside Albania seemed to care. I only found it because I happened to be searching for co-working spaces. You see those drone shots, golden hour, that dramatic top-down angle over the boulevard, thousands of people walking together. And honestly, it feels like this country is trying so hard, almost desperately, to get this story out past its own borders. And it's peaceful, almost strangely peaceful for a protest. No rocks, no Molotovs, nothing like that. I haven't seen it anyway. Police are mostly just directing traffic. It's one of those things you see at protests everywhere. People handing out flyers to the very police officers there to control the crowd. They're just guys in uniform doing their job, but I swear I catch this look sometimes, like, yeah, I get it. My hands are tied here too. That kind of look, if you know what I mean. Anyway, a month here, day or night, and I've never once felt unsafe. Never worried the state might crack down hard. Never worried it turn into tear gas and Molotov cocktails. Maybe peaceful protest is just sort of the trend now. I don't know. It's pretty much the same every night from what people tell me. People start gathering here 6, 7 o'clock, and once there's enough of a crowd, they walk together, about a kilometer, chanting the whole way. A few cars with TV station logos and cameras mounted on top lead the way. There's a kind of structure to it, some informal rules, and everyone just sort of follows along behind. Down at the Parliament, people take turns speaking. There's little performances too. I heard someone once brought a special birthday cake for the Prime Minister, made of concrete, with a message written right into it. Lots of prisons for you. And then every day, everybody gathers, says what they need to say to the people in power, and once it's late enough, heads home. Same thing again the next day. Day 63, no, day 70 by now. But here's the thing that actually caught my eye the most. Every weekend, there's this wave of diaspora, people who actually fly back just for the protest. And I looked into the numbers because I couldn't believe it. Albania's population, inside the country, is around 2.4 million, and the diaspora, Albanians living outside the country, is estimated at somewhere around 4 million, give or take, more people outside than in. Isn't that wild? There's a real history behind that number. And, I mean, I could go down this whole rabbit hole, but let me just give you the short version. Albania used to get called the North Korea of Europe. Decades of isolated communist dictatorship. Enver Hoxha built that system, and after he died, the regime he left behind finally collapsed around 1991. So people came out into this. No preparation for what came next. Total chaos. And a lot of them just left, by boat, by truck, Whatever would get them to Italy, Germany, the UK, wherever. Construction sites, restaurant kitchens, taxis, whatever paid, they did it. And then, barely 6 years later in 97, there was this massive Ponzi scheme collapse. About 2/3 of the population got caught up in it, and something like half the country's GDP just evaporated. Hard to believe, right? Long story short, this country had just come out of decades of communism, no real experience with capitalism at all, and then some guys show up promising to double your money in a few months. People fell for it, hard, and that triggered another huge wave of people leaving the country. Listening to that story actually reminded me of something. Back in Seoul, through work, I met a few North Korean defectors, and apparently that's a really common pattern for them too. Coming from a system with zero training in how capitalism actually works, they're incredibly vulnerable when they arrive in the South. There's this resettlement program, Hanawan, where they teach the basics, how a bank works, deposits, interest, loans, how to use an ATM, that kind of thing. And even so, a huge number of them still end up getting scammed financially. I'm guessing Albania in 97 looked a lot like that. Money is, honestly, a pretty ruthless thing. And the people running those scams, there's a saying in Korean, taking the liver out of a flea. That's exactly what they were doing. The people running scams like that always go after the poorest, most vulnerable people they can find. Anyway, that's how you end up with 4 million people outside the country. Small, funny detail. My Airbnb host here, named Skander, after the famous national hero, obviously. He's about my father's age, doesn't speak much English at all. When he gets frustrated trying to talk to me, he actually switches to German. Nein. That's not what I meant, apparently. So now, sometimes when I run into him, I just say, Alles gut? That's about the extent of our relationship. Which means, I guess my Airbnb host is one of those returnees too. Someone who lived through communism, went abroad to earn money, support the family, and eventually came back to host a nomadic tourist from Seoul in broken English or slightly less broken German. A friend I made here told me people from the north, near Duras, the coastal side, mostly went to Italy, Milan, Rome, places like that. People from the south, around Gjirokastar, Sarande, the Ionian side, a lot of them went to Greece instead. Her own father spent 10 years in Naples, apparently. She always tells it like her mother threatened him into finally coming home. But honestly, between us, I don't really buy that. 10 years is a long time to stay away from someone you love that much. I think he just missed her too much to keep staying away. I get it, actually, missing someone like that. How does that land with you, hearing all this? For me, I kept thinking about the country I left, Korea. People who grew up on K-pop and K-dramas probably don't know this side of it, but Korea has its own, honestly pretty brutal, diaspora history. People who left because there was nothing to eat at home, and someone had to feed the family. Korea was under Japanese colonial rule from 1910 to 45, then went through 3 years of a war that split the country in half, starting in 1950. So obviously the diaspora history goes back a long way before this. But again, this channel's not a history class, and I don't want to talk about stuff I don't actually know well. So let me just pick it up from after the division. It starts back in the 60s. In 63, Korea sent about 8,000 miners to work in German coal mines. In 66, around 12,000 nurses, young women, sent to work in German hospitals. Not exactly glamorous work, coal dust and hospital wards. Then in the 70s, there's this huge wave of construction workers sent to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Libya, pouring concrete under that sun. Between 73 and the mid-80s, the official count runs to something like 1 million dispatches to the Middle East, accounting for repeat trips, realistically more like 500,000 actual workers. That's actually where the foundation of Hyundai, one of Korea's biggest companies today, comes from. And before that even, in the 60s and into the 70s, Korean soldiers were sent to fight in Vietnam alongside the Americans. That's not really framed as diaspora usually, but honestly, by scale and by duration, I think it counts. Fighting someone else's war, with no real cause of their own, just to earn money, that's a rough thing to sit with. So, mining coal in Germany, changing diapers for elderly patients in nursing homes, pouring concrete in the desert, getting shot at in the jungle. The dollars people earned doing that, sent home, that's part of what built the country Korea is today. I looked it up actually. Until the early 70s, Korea was poorer than North Korea. Would you believe North Korea's income per person was noticeably higher than the South's before the South overtook it sometime in the 70s? I love digging through old statistics. In the 50s, South Korea's main export was tungsten. By the 60s, it was wigs. Yes, wigs, made from human hair. I can't help but picture these young women, beautiful, long black hair down their backs, standing in line at some street barber stool in front of Seoul Station, waiting their turn to have it all cut off, just to scrape together enough for their first month's rent in the city. Now it's somewhere in the top 10 economies in the world. There's a lot of reasons for that, obviously, but you can't deny the blood and sweat our parents' generation put in overseas and sent home, that was a real part of it. So, coming from a country with that kind of history, watching these Albanian diaspora families come back every weekend, waving red flags right here in this square, I can't not feel something. It hits close to home. Honestly, the real reason I care about this diaspora stuff isn't really about Albania. I think about my own identity a lot. Who am I? Am I diaspora too? I was born and raised in Korea. My family's there. And when I'm away too long, I miss it, crave the food. But whether I actually think of Korea as home, that's a different question. I left as an adult. Wasn't chasing some other country I admired. A lot of what Korean society's built on just felt violent to me, honestly. Oppressive to individual freedom. I'll just say this much. As a Korean man, I served 26 months, mandatory military service. Still carry a Korean passport, still pay Korean taxes, but I don't feel like Korea's the place I'm dying to go back and grow old in. But here's the funny part, and I genuinely can't figure out why. I just said Korea's not home for me, and yet, I never miss a single piece of Korean news, even from here. Economy, politics, presidential elections, obviously, but also who's running for Seoul mayor, how the party leadership race is going. I follow it all. And I think, whether they left my choice or not, that's probably exactly why these diaspora people keep coming back here. Maybe it's the same thing I feel. So, in the 2 videos I posted before this, I talked about how I ended up in Tirana, and why I suddenly started making this channel, these videos, here of all places. I don't remember exactly when it started, honestly, whether it was the moment I first saw those drone shots of the Flamingo protest on Instagram, or when I was reading some Wikipedia page about Albania's diaspora history. I don't remember exactly. But maybe, from the start, I had some kind of unexplainable affection for this country, or maybe more like sympathy. It wasn't love at first sight. I mean, I'm honestly too old to believe in that anymore. But I think it's fair to say I developed a real feeling for this country, and its people, that wasn't temporary, wasn't light. Because the moment I landed in Tirana, out of nowhere, I decided to restart something that had been frozen for 3 months. And it only took me a few days to put together a whole special episode about all this. You know how it is. When something's genuinely fun, you forget to eat, you forget to sleep, you just get absorbed in it. That's basically been my last month. I mentioned this before, but for anyone new here, I also make this other show on the side, a kind of fictional radio broadcast where I play a character and imagine a whole other version of the world. It's a strange little side project, honestly, hard to explain in one sentence, but the short version is, I wanted to imagine a better, weirder future than the one everyone's bracing for. But making the last 2 episodes of this Albania season, I've had so much fun, honestly. Really happy doing it. I got to imagine Albanian musicians, Albanian food, this whole protest, all showing up 10 years from now in a completely different context, still remembered, still mattering. There's something almost hopeful about that. Sitting down and imagining that all of this, the marching, the flags, the noise, actually adds up to something a decade out. Since I was imagining that far ahead, I obviously imagined my own version of how this protest turns out too, but I won't spoil it. I'll just say this much. It might not be the ending you're hoping for, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad one. So, some guy escapes a heat wave, ends up in a city he'd never even heard of, and somehow that turns into a whole season of a fictional radio show. Views don't really matter, honestly, but if you think about it, that's kind of a small miracle, isn't it? I think so, anyway. And who knows, maybe someone stumbles onto this video, walking with me down this street in the middle of summer, and it sparks something in them too. That's kind of the whole point of this channel. Okay, actually, let me turn this off for a bit. I want to switch the camera off and just listen to what people are actually saying out here. My arms are getting tired too, holding this thing up this long. Oh, and if any of you watching are thinking about visiting Tirana, or just curious what's actually going on in this cool city right now, search Flamingo Revolution on YouTube or Instagram. If you've watched this whole video, you basically already get it. But if you want a bit more guidance on how to actually join in, most days people start gathering around 6 at Skanderbeg Square, and once there's enough of a crowd, the march kicks off, goes until 8, 9, sometimes later, in front of Parliament, until those shameless, greedy idiots running this place finally can't hold out anymore and give in. Then everyone says their piece and heads home feeling good. You guys should come out too. You won't regret it. One more thing before I wrap up. Near the back of the march, there was this big sheet of cardboard just laid out on the street. Turns out it's there so kids can sit and draw while the adults keep marching, so parents don't have to choose between showing up and taking care of their kids. That got to me more than almost anything else today. So, if you're diaspora, flying back here every weekend, or just watching from wherever you ended up, I see you, and I think I get it more than you'd expect from some stranger passing through. And if you are one of the parents bringing your kids to this, letting them draw on the pavement while you march, that's its own quiet kind of courage. Respect. Genuinely. I keep saying, you don't need to win. Being a survivor is already winning. Same thing here. Hold out till the end and the world changes. you know, nothing lasts forever. It's just a matter of time. Alright, see you in the next one. Annyeong.
Thank you.